Consider this WBS for a design and build contract, and the design and build contractor has several subcontractors. These subcontractors have been invited to do a confidential bid for these works. So we would have made a invitation to tender for them for these confidential bids, and they would have at some point delivered a bid to us, and we would have taken the cheapest bid of the ones that are invited to give this confidential bid. I'm just going to look at this contract here for the payment of this subcontractor by the design and build contractor. I can use this focus to look at the, in this case, carpentry contract, and it consists of these activities that the carpenter has to do, and obviously he has to be paid at some point for these works. I have done a schedule for these works, and the schedule is more or less fictive. So these activities here are done with these durations, and the bid that this contractor won had a value of 960,000, and these are the prices for the individual building components of that contract. I've put them into the cost column of Microsoft Project by inserting a column and writing C for cost in the English version. I've got a Danish version, unfortunately, so I'm using O for omkostninger. This is the same as costs. I've planned the activities here. This is a relatively small project, more or less realistic. And these are the activities, as you can see here, and these are their durations. If I zoom out a little, you can see this particular subcontract takes 3 months, starts around about November and finishes somewhere in January. There are, of course, links to other contracts in your projects. So in your projects, you'll have to consider how your subcontract is linked to the other subcontracts, whereas I'm trying to illustrate an example here. I exported this to Excel to begin with here, and I've written all the activities, and I copied these into my MS project here and here for the costs. Then I put some durations and I link them together, and this is what you'll also have to do to produce this plan. When the contract is on site, this plan has to be followed up, and the best way to follow it up is to use the tracking Gantt. If I click to the tracking Gantt and use Control Shift and F5, I have the go to here, and you can see my activities here. The difference between the tracking Gantt and the Gantt is that the bars are much slimmer, and they have 0% complete in this case next on the right hand side. I can format this with the text and so on and so forth. To format it with text, I go into I choose my you see my activities here. I've got this color here, and I go into text and I write on the right hand side, it's the left hand side, it's start date, and on the right hand side it's finish date, and on the top I'm going to write name. I'm writing it in Danish, obviously, and clicking OK here, and you can see my tracking Gantt formatted with the names of the activities on them. We know that the contractor gets paid after 1 month's work is done, or if you use GC 18, we can also choose 14 days. I'm going to use 1 month as an illustration. In order to illustrate when the contractor is paid, I'm going to do a couple of things here. I'm going to go into project and project information, and I'm going to go in here and choose a status date. And the status date, in my case here, if I just move this to the left, is going to be the work completed up to the 1st of December. So I'm going to choose the status date of 1st December or thereabouts. So I'm clicking here, this is in 2019, and I'm choosing around about the 1st of December. In this case, it will be the 2nd of December, which is a working day. Click OK. I cannot see my status date right now because I need to format it in order to find my status date. And to do that, I right-click and use grid lines, and I go down here and I choose status date. Give it a line type and a color. I normally use red, which is easier to see. You can see my status date now for the works done in November is round about the 2nd of December here. The red line appears. I can see I have costs here, the original cost. I can right click here and insert a column called actual costs. In my case, it's F for faktisk omkostninger, which is that. This in your English version would be actual costs. And I also need another column here. I'm just going to use this duration column because I've already got the duration. I'm going to insert percent finish. Not percent work finished, but percent finished. And now I will look at the work that has been finished in on the left-hand side of the status date. I can now write here, for example, that this roof elements are 100% finished because according to the plan they're finished here. And with regard to this activity here, laying of roofing felt, I'm going to say it's, let's say, 40% finished. And here you can see that it's behind schedule really. It should be more finished more, but it's only 40% finished. And my actual costs, where they disappeared to here. You can see the actual costs here of the work done up to now of the total work is 512,000. And this would be the first interim payment request by the contractor. The value of these two added together is 512. Interim certificates and a payment of the contractor. In order to do this, I have provided you with an Excel sheet. We're using GC18 as a basis. This is a fixed price project. That means that the project is fixed for the first 12 months as written in GC18. And the index at tender I'm going to write as 100. The average index at execution is also 100 because this is going to be fixed price. It's not going to be regulated. And I'll put in the VAT at 25%. You would fill in this for the contractor, the site, and the client's name, the contractor, and the site, and so on. The contractor is a subcontractor's name. The client here is the design and build contractor because it's the design and build contractor in total design and build contracting that pays the subcontractors, not the client directly. And in order to do the payments, I need to put in my activities from the bidding form here and their values here. To do that, I'm just going to go back to my Excel sheet that I exported and copy these over to my interim certificates. So if I copy this now, I can put it into my interim certificates in the bidding form here. I've done that now, and you can see it's slightly messy because I've destroyed the format of this color here, but it doesn't matter, it's a principle. When I add these up, I get my contract value down here, which corresponds to the contract value of the 960. So this will automatically translate into the distribution list, which is part of the interim certificates. To every interim certificate, there's a distribution list, and you can see here the distribution list has all the activities and the contract values of those activities, and they amount to the total contract value. And with each distribution list for each month, this is a month number 1, which is in our case for the work done in November, I need to put in the value of work done here in percentage. This would it is the subcontractor that fills in this distribution list as a request for payment. And in order to put the value of work done, I go back into my schedule here. I can see that the first element, mounting of elements, was 100% finished, and then 40% finished for the laying of the roof felts on the elements. So I go back in here and I put 100% finished here, and I put in 40% finished here. And you can see that gives 512,000, which is the value of work done of the 960 total contract sum, approximately 53%. From the distribution list, these values automatically go into the first interim certificate, because with each distribution list there is an interim certificate. And you can see the contract sum, the value of work done is 512. I've got some extra works here, and I've got some omissions. Extra work is, for example, if you do some clearance of snow or something similar to that, or any extra work that the client has asked for beyond the contract sum. Omissions is when you take something out of the project. In this case, I've got extra works of 7,190 and omissions of 200. And these are all values excluding VAT, and they're the cumulative values. And in order to keep track of the extra works, I have a schedule here for interim certificate number 1. There are extra works of 7,190. This could be extra works in connection with winter, and each extra work or omission would have an agreement here. And this 971 excluding VAT is, in this case, is just an example of use in a different situation to do with concrete. Let's pretend that this is not concrete, but this is in fact something to do with the carpentry contract. So this would be filled in for the carpentry contract, not the concrete contractor. I'm just using this as an example. And this omission could be, for example, where we're using a cheaper door in one of the door areas in the building. So we're making it cheaper, we're making the product cheaper, we're taking 2,000 out of the project. And so we have extra works, we have the contract value executed in November plus extra works minus omissions. That gives you this sum. We don't have retention in Denmark. Instead, we have a performance bond, but in some countries we have retention. When you subtract this from the retention of 0, we get this. Paid earlier is 0 because we haven't paid anything before this first interim certificate. So to pay is this plus VAT, and the payment is this. And you can see the increase in turnover is 217,000. The payment is 217,000 ex VAT. So that is how you fill in the first interim certificate. Now we're progressing to December. So we have to move our status date from December, because the next interim certificate will be sent at the beginning of January. So we're looking at everything to the left of that January interim certificate. So we change the status date. We go into project information and change the status date now from December to round about the 1st of January, which is a Wednesday in this case. Click OK. You see that status date moves here. Now we have to follow up everything that's to the left of the 1st of January, or near the 1st of January. So this, at this point here, would now be 100% finished, presuming that no delays have been incurred. And this one here was also probably 100% finished. So is this activity. and this one too. Let's say that this one is only 5% finished. And these percentages, or let's make it a little bit more, let's say 15% finished. You can see these activities are assessed by the executing subcontractor, and he will send these values in to the design and build contractor for payment. Of the total value of the contract, 909,000 has been executed. So now we have to go to the interim certificate again and fill out the second interim certificate. So if we go down to the next distribution list for the second interim certificate, which is for December, then everything is 100% finished all the way down to mounting of inner walls, which is 15% finished. So I'm just going to fill 100 in these. Now you can see most of these are finished, or all of them are finished, except this last one here. So the total contract value was 960, of which 909,000 is finished, which is about 95% of the total value. This value here will automatically go in to interim certificate number 2 up here. The cumulative value of work done is 909,000. The cumulative value of extra works done is still 71,000. We're presuming that no extra works are going to be done in this second month. And the cumulative value of omissions is still 2,000 from the previous month. So you can say that these two values, the cumulative value of them are still these, because nothing new occurs in the second month in connection with extra works or omissions. So this plus this minus this gives you this. Paid previously is 517,000. That's what we paid on our first interim certificate, the 517,190. So that needs to be subtracted from the cumulative value. And the payment for this is now 397,000. There's no index because this is in the fixed price period of 12 months. And the VAT is 99,000. So the actual payment is 496,000. And you can see the increase in turnover is this, and the payment is this. This is a check to make sure that everything is correct. Now we need to send in the final payment, and the final payment will be sent in after everything is 100%. Now this one, we need to change our status date to around about here. So we go into the status date. Let's say it's around about the 11th. We go in there and we click on the 11th of January. Or let's say the 13th of January, because 11th is a Saturday. So we will send our final pay request here after we have done 100% finished here. The client will not pay him the final payment until the handing over is looked at between the architect and the design and build contractor. The design build contractor and the architect, his architect, and the subcontractors will go through the building and make sure that this contract is 100% finished. If there are any shortcomings, the subcontractor will be given, let's say, 14 days to rectify those shortcomings, after which he can send, there will be a new handing over procedure. And only when the handing over is accepted by the design and build contractor, who will only accept the handing over after he's had a delivery of this contract with the client. So at some point, the design and build contractor will say okay to the subcontractor and will pay his final payment. So now we have to fill in the final interim certificate. And to do that, we go into our interim certificate, and this is the third interim certificate. And you can see over here, we need to do everything 100% in this column here. you can now see that everything is 100% complete. So the contract value and the executed value is the same. These figures will automatically go into the third interim certificate, which automatically changes to the final certificate because everything is now 100% finished. And this Excel sheet knows that when it's 100% finished, then the last interim certificate is called the final payment, which happens after the handing over. So the executed cumulative value of the contract is now 960, totally finished. The cumulative extra works up to date, there has been no extra works in this last month and no omissions. So the cumulative value of extra works and omissions stays the same from the first. This plus this minus this gives us this. The payment, total payment request is this. Paid earlier is the 500 and something thousand from the first interim certificate, which was this one, plus the payment from the second interim certificate. And that together gives us this sum. So the cumulative value of payments up to date is this. This is the total contract value plus extra works minus emissions. So the payment is this. We're still in the fixed price period. The VAT is this, and the total payment including VAT is this. And we can see the final account of this contract here at the top, where it says that the total value of work done is the total contract sum plus extra works minus emissions, which is this. And here you have the total payment plus the VAT. So the total payment including VAT is 1.2 million. And you can see the payments for each interim certificate here. They're written down here, including the VAT, and they give the same amount of money as shown here. And here. So this ends this video about payment of the contractor, the subcontractor by the design and build contractor, and each group in the fourth semester has to do 2 of these, one for each of their subcontractors.